Okay, what are we doing today?
This is a pork shoulder, and we are going to smoke it for pulled pork barbecue. So the first thing we're going to do is take the pork out of its plastic container and slice the fat cap. One side of these will always have a large, thick fat cap on it. You want to cut about 3/8 of an inch in or so, and then cross hatch it. This allows the seasoning to get through the fat and into the meat, but it keeps the fat in place to keep the meat moist. So now we'll hit it with some salt, generous amounts of salt.
Are you just doing salt on the top, or are you going to put salt?
I'm going to put salt on all 6 sides.
Every surface area.
Exactly.
Okay. And the same goes with the rest of these spices?
Yes.
Okay. What do you have here as far as your spices? I see the salt.
So we're going to get some garlic powder, or granulated garlic technically. We're going to hit that generously on there. A little bit of onion powder. And all this will turn into a nice crispy crust too. A little bit of thyme. A little bit of cayenne.
A little bit.
You can also use ground chipotle. I alternate.
Just something for a little smoky heat.
Exactly. A little bit of ground clove. This lends an interesting, subtle, but
That's
pleasant.
a lot of clove, though. I think people might be a little nervous about putting that much
I
clove
wouldn't
on.
worry about it. It's going to be going onto the smoker. A lot of it's going to end up in the fire.
Would you say about a teaspoon of clove?
I would say less than a teaspoon for the entire thing.
Okay, and what do you put on there now?
This is cumin, and you can be as generous with cumin as you like. A little bit is.
And we'll write down the general proportions for the video.
It matters how much cumin you use with the size of the roast, too. This is a very large one. This is a 10-pounder. Oftentimes I'll get them as small as 6 or 7 pounds. I just like having lots of meat around, so
Because it's really good.
it's really good, and it freezes well, too.
And so what you're just going to do is basically repeat the process for the same proportions as you did on the fat cap. You're not going to score the rest of the meat because there's no fat.
Of course, precisely.
But you're just going to, on each of the sides, you're going to continue to add the same spices in the same proportions.
While I'm doing this, we've got a fire getting started, which will help us, which is how we're going to cook this.
And the
Smoke
fire
this.
is with the charcoal chimney, not with any lighter fluid, because lighter fluid is
No
bad.
light. We're only using newspaper and a charcoal chimney to get this.
And like a cowboy charcoal, which you can get at almost any grocery store.
Exactly. Very basic. We're going to do this on a Weber grill, but you could probably use almost any other type of grill as well. So we're just going to keep this up and get all sides amply seasoned, and then we'll go to grill in a minute or two.
Okay, and we're at the grill ready to dump the charcoal from the charcoal chimney.
Set it all here on one side, not in the middle, on the side.
Because this is an indirect heat process.
Exactly. And that's important. As a general rule, we always want to grill indirect and direct at the same time, meaning that we can put the meat right on the grill over the fire and then also pull it off to the side.
So if you're going to add wood chips or whatnot.
Exactly. And a lot of people, when they smoke, they get real anal about the wood chips. We are not. And it doesn't require much sophistication either. What we're going to do, we're going to put our pork shoulder onto the grill here. Roll this back. Again, indirect grilling.
Does the vent matter where you're going to put it on the lid?
It does. We're going to put the vent on this side, on the meat side, rather than directly over the fire. So the heat has to come over.
So you drag the smoke and the fire, and well, not the fire, but the smoke across the meat, but not the heat.
Exactly. And here's something else we're going to do. We're just going to throw this wood chips. They're dry. We don't even put soak in water. We're just going to throw them right on the grill. Some of the chips are going to fall through. These are off the shelf wood chips. Now we got some smoke coming, and we're going to put the lid on.
And again, there you go. There's your vent, and you're ready to go for how long?
We'll go for 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours on the grill like this.
Awesome.
Replenishing the chips every so often.
I can't tell you how good this smells right now. It's been 2 hours.
Yes, and every 20 minutes or so, I'm adding a little bit more wood.
Just to the top of the grill, too.
Yeah, right
Not
on top.
soaking in water, just
Right
straight.
on top.
Awesome.
Now, if you've got some apple wood that's green, you can put that right on the fire. That's not a problem. And you could easily soak it if you wanted to, but this is less work and it works just as well.
And you're going to do this again in like how every?
Another 20 minutes until I run out of fire.
Okay, awesome.
So we'll just put this lid on it, and we'll be back in 20 minutes. Do it again, and then probably another 20 minutes after that, we'll pull it off.
Hey, how long has it been?
This has been about 3 hours now. Every 20 minutes, I've been adding wood chips in here, and now the fire is spent. So I'm going to lift the
Yeah, this is a very there's no heat here at all.
pork shoulder out and drop it into my braising pan.
Because
We're next going to braise this for another 2.5, 3 hours
in the oven.
in the oven. Okay, so we've got the pork shoulder in here. The trick here is we're going to braise this for 3 hours in the oven. We're going to add a little bit of fresh thyme, a little garlic, some bay leaves, and a little onion. Some water, and about enough to cover about half of the pork. You can add more later if you need to. You can check on it because you can't help but check on it. We're going to use some foil. We got a non-stick foil on one side, shiny on the other. The non-stick go right on top here. We can also put a lid on it, but this one's just a little bit big, so I don't think our lid will fit. So we're just going to crimp this in all the way around. I want to keep the moisture in, so I'm pushing down the outside edges so the moisture hits the top. It'll drop into the pan instead of outside. Into the oven we go for 2.5 to 3 hours. And we'll see you then. Okay, so we're back. It's been about 3.5 hours. We let the meat cool a little bit in the oven, and now we're pulling it out. We'll see what's happened over the past few hours. Wow. Isn't that delightful? So we're going to move that to the pan, and I'm going to use latex gloves because it's easier than trying to hold it all together. You'll see.
Well, but the other thing is, like, if you try to use tongs or something, it's going to fall apart.
Exactly.
Because this has been, 3.5 hours. How many hours on the grill? How many hours in the oven? And
Exactly.
it's just.
Well, you can see it wants to fall apart.
And
here.
that's how you know that you've done this right.
Drain off some liquid.
There's that
Right
onion
here.
and the garlic and the bay still
And you
in
can
there.
see this wants to fall apart just like so. There's the bone, there's the meat, and that's right. And it's still pretty hot, so I'm gonna be careful. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna pull this meat, but while that's happening, we're going to reduce this broth here and use this as a sauce for the pulled pork.
So one of the things that I wanted to show was the actual pulling process, because this is an important stage. Because what you're doing is you're going through the entire roast, you're pulling out the bones, you're separating it into the pulled pork, and then you're pulling aside the fat and any sort of, I guess it wouldn't be any gristle, but it is an important thing to remove the fat.
The odd, unappealing parts that any big roast will have. A lot of people just pull it and add it right to the mix, and that's okay. But it's a nice mouthfeel without it, and so I go to the extra effort of doing that.
Okay, so all of the pork has been pulled and put into a crock pot, because frankly, this is enough. This is enough pork for quite a few people.
Yeah, 15 people easily. This was a 10-pound roast. So we're going to pour the juices that this was that came out of the pork itself, and we reduced to a quarter of what they were before. All those juices have.
And by the way, that little piece of garlic in there is
We're going to press that right in.
It's wonderful. Don't get rid of that garlic. It's absolutely lovely. So again,
I'll press it into the sauce itself. And you might be worried about the fat. You can skim that if you like, but frankly, pork is so lean anymore, it really benefits from the additional fat. So this is now in here. We'll stir this a little bit, but these juices are something else.
the juices are where a lot of the flavor has gone to. So you've got all of that smoky flavor, all of the rub that was put onto it. A lot of that came off of the meat when it was in the oven, which is why you need to save that pan sauce. You need to reduce it, and you need to add it back
It's
in.
the distillation of the essence of the pulled pork.
And
and
again-
all that smoke and everything else that needs to be there. It's absolutely.
So you warm this up. This will serve 15, 20 people, and you can pull it off and then add your Carolina sauce. You can add your barbecue sauce. You can put it on a bun. You can add your coleslaw. You can do whatever you want, but this is the basic. This is what you start with. Anything you add is up to you. We're going to do a lunch which is gluten-free and low carb, and we'll show you that in a sec. And if you are interested in doing a paleo or low carb version, this is an amazing pulled pork Mexican salad.